You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan.
Welcome to Women's Media Center Live. I'm Robin Morgan. My guests today are just great. Saru Jayaraman returns to the program. She is a great organizer of restaurant workers, particularly the kind who have to survive on tips, 70% of whom are women. And there's been a whole lot of development in that area that's very exciting. And then, talk about exciting, women's movement leader and sports great champion, Billie Jean King, is here for a special 2-segment conversation. Wow, as I said earlier, wow, oh wow. But first, we need to go inside the headlines. We've been here before, and we will be tragically here again and again. The sidewalk shrines, the candles, the flowers, the mourners, the rage. The strikes by ISIL, or the Islamic State, or as the Arabs call them, the Daesh. The strikes against the Russian airliner, against France, proved that ISIL has more people, tens of thousands of soldiers, and greater scope and reach than had been thought. So the expectable attempts at analysis come forward again, going around in circles. Why are young men so drawn to this super violent sect, or so it was thought? But it's not a sect. It's dreams of a glorified, mythified past, reinstating the caliphate. For poor men, it's a salary, just that, food, bread, as well as a sense of being worth something, fighting in a larger cause, and if they're religious, of course, the reward of martyrdom. But why the better educated, people ask? How can they, middle class, even some upper middle class backgrounds, how can they go and join ISIL? They also sometimes join for religious reasons, for dreams of a glorified past, for expectations unfulfilled because they are educated, but there are no jobs for them. And, of course, the promise of female slaves is an inducement. But basically, until we go beyond those superficial analyses, we will keep repeating this tragic scenario again and again and again and again. Because the terrorist is the logical incarnation of patriarchal politics in a technological world. The terrorist is the son practicing what the father, in power, has always practiced and claimed to have found his identity in doing so, so the son imitates him. And as usual with a paternal mixture of pride and alarm, the father either disowns or affirms the son according to how closely the son does or doesn't follow in his footsteps or diverges from them. You can hear it in the father's preaching and practicing. To the Reagan administration in the United States, the Nicaraguan Contras were freedom fighters, not terrorists, and the disappearance squads of General Pinochet in Chile were law enforcers, not terrorists. Yet militant black South Africans fighting apartheid and Palestinian paramilitary groups fighting occupation, they were terrorists. To the Soviet Union, on the other hand, the People's Army in El Salvador was a revolutionary force in its insurgency, while the People's Resistance in Afghanistan, of course, was a terrorist phenomenon. Pretty ironic, that. The terrorist mystique is twin brother to the manhood mystique, and the mythic father of both is the hero. The terrorist has charisma because he is the technological age manifestation of the hero, and this is a democratization of violence in which every man can now be a hero. The hero triumphant when he wins his revolution and moves into the presidential palace. That's everybody from George Washington and Mao Zedong to Fidel Castro and Anwar Sadat and Menachem Begin of Israel. And he's the hero martyred when he loses and is destroyed. That's Spartacus, Crazy Horse, Zapata, Patrice Lumumba, Che Guevara, and of course the martyrdom promised by Islamic fundamentalism. Without the propaganda of the hero myth, murder is a sordid business. But with the hero myth, wow, any act of violence is made not only possible but inevitable. The rapist gets transformed into the seducer, the tyrant rules by divine right, and the terrorist reconstitutes the hero. Look at him. There he stands, young, lean, garbed all in black, his face in shadow or masked by a balaclava, his gestures swift and economical as a predatory cat's, his muscled body not only bearing the magic tools of death, but a magic tool of death itself. He is. His commitment is total. He's a fanatic of dedication, a mixture of impetuosity and discipline. He's desperate and therefore vulnerable. He's totally at risk and therefore brave. He's an idealist, yet a hardened realist. And most of all, he is someone wholly given over to a passion. But his passion is death. He's what passes for manhood, in that he seeks or risks exalted annihilation, and in that he threatens or promises the same. He actually magnetizes us. He fascinates us as an avatar of power. We recognize this is an unhealthy power. We recognize less what lies behind his ski mask. What lies behind is the leading man of popular entertainment culture, the hero of millions, the Lone Ranger, Zorro, all the masked comic book heroes, the depersonalized abandon of Mardi Gras, of Carnival, the masked ball, the swashbuckler, the highwayman, the pirate, the daredevil, the outlaw, the frog prince, the beast, menacing beauty. The costumes, uniforms, disguises worn by men of the church and the military, as Virginia Woolf noted in 3 Guineas, and by men of the corporation with their own uniforms, and by the hip radicals, or the biker, or the chieftain. The hero's disguises and the emperor's clothes were cut by the same tailor and for the same purpose. But this is nonsense, you might think. The terrorist is a man who wears a ski mask or a stocking mask because he doesn't want to betray his identity. He simply doesn't want anyone to know who he is, that's all. My point. Exactly. And now it's time for my first guest. Saru Jayaraman is returning to the program to my delight. She is the founder and the current head of Restaurant Opportunities Centers United, ROC, R-O-C United. ROC was initially started after September 11th in 2001 to provide support to restaurant workers who'd been displaced as a result of the World Trade Center tragedy. But it grew to then support restaurant workers all over New York City, and then it grew bigger, and it has over 13,000 worker members and 100+ employer partners and several thousand consumer members in 32 cities nationwide. Saru is a fantastic organizer, about to come out with a new book, Forked, it's called, and ROC has a number of great recent victories under its belt. So here is Saru Jayaraman. Saru, welcome back to the program.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Well, a lot has happened with you and with ROC United since you last were on the program. I want to start with before we get to all the rest of the good news, I want to start with your terrific op-ed piece recently in the New York Times about the history of tipping. Bring the listeners briefly up to date on that history.
Yeah, and it's interesting because it's a history that I think most of us who've been fighting to raise wages, minimum wage in this country didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
And so for 100 years, minimum wage advocates, labor movement included, we all sort of left the tipped workers out every time the minimum wage went up.
Right.
And so earlier this year, I was doing research for my new book coming out next year and discovered that actually tipping didn't originate in the United States. It originated in Europe. And when it came to the States in the late 1850s, 1860s, rich Americans traveling to Europe wanted to come back and show that they knew the rules of Europe. There was a massive anti-tipping movement in the States, so massive that 5 states actually passed complete bans on tipping. They said it was undemocratic and un-American, and employers should pay their workers, not customers.
Yeah.
And that movement spread to Europe and succeeded in Europe, which is why there's very little tipping in Europe. But here in the States, the restaurant industry and the Pullman train company both demanded the right to hire newly freed slaves and not pay them anything and let them live on customer tips. So the original, not tipped restaurant workers were newly freed slaves. And of course, if anybody knows labor history, the Pullman train car porters, first black union in the United States, and won the right to an actual wage rather than having to live off of tips.
Right.
But restaurant workers were not so lucky, and that idea that a restaurant worker could be paid next to nothing or nothing at all, which was the original law, and live off tips was codified into the first minimum wage law in 1938. And so we've gone from minimum wage for tipped workers of $0 in 1938 to a whopping $2.13 an hour, which is the current federal minimum wage in 2015 for tipped workers.
My God. And of course it's in the owner's interest because they basically are getting free or acutely cheap labor. And it is exacerbated by the fact that most tipped workers are people of color and 70% are women. And
that's the part that most people don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, and of course this is another reason, as you pointed out in the op-ed, why the two-tiered system is the single of the restaurant industry, or as you used to call it, the other NRA, the National Restaurant Association. That it's the single largest source of sexual harassment claims in the U.S. because if you're you're a woman and you're forced to live on tips, then you have to smile and put up with no matter what crap gets thrown at you by the people who will maybe be doing the tipping.
Yeah, sadly, there's even a new industry segment that's growing. I don't know if you can believe this. It's called the breastaurant.
Oh, my God.
Not just Hooters. Yeah, it's a company called Tilted Kilt, a company called Twin Peaks.
Oh.
These are really, fast-growing restaurants that have formed a new industry segment called the breastaurant. But it really isn't just the breastaurant. It isn't just Hooters. We hear these stories from the Olive Garden and IHOP and Applebee's and Denny's where women, like you said, just have to tolerate whatever a customer might do to them and more importantly, objectify themselves to get that money in tips.
Right, that's right. I mean, I find it very revealing that although restaurants employ about 7% of American women, as you've pointed out, almost 37% of all sexual harassment claims to the Equal Opportunity Employment Opportunity Commission come from restaurants. So what do you know?
That's right.
Yeah. Well, let's get to some good news before I get psychotically depressed. So Rock, which you co-founded a few years ago, and you were on the program, I think, in 2013. Rock has come of age, although it's still very young, and you're coming out with a new book, and there's a whole new amazing campaign that has actually taken fire and popularity among restaurant owners. So tell us about that, because it's great news.
Yeah, thank you. So actually, around the time that I was on your show, we launched a campaign called One Fair Wage. Mm-hmm. We realized that we at Rock, like the rest of the labor movement and the whole advocacy world, had all been wrong, frankly, that we had all thought that tipped workers could have a lower minimum wage. We thought that it was okay just to raise that abysmally low wage of $2.13 an hour for tipped workers. Well, around fall of 2013, we realized we were all wrong. What we really needed was just to completely eliminate this two-tiered system.
Yep.
7 states have already done it, California included, and California has the largest and one of the fastest-growing restaurant industries in the country. So basically in these 7 states, all employers, including the restaurant industry, have to pay a full wage to their workers, and tips are on top of that, and people still tip really well. And so we said if those 7 states can do it, every state can do it, and we launched a campaign called One Fair Wage. And we've got 8 states that are moving legislation and ballot measures to completely eliminate the lower wage for tipped workers. And then this spring, the Democrats in Congress followed and introduced the first bills in U.S. history proposing the full elimination of the lower wage for tipped workers, so that now the only minimum wage bills moving in Congress are bills proposing the full elimination of the lower wage for tipped workers, which is just a huge reversal. I mean, even a year ago, we were really struggling with our own fellow advocates about why we needed to stop thinking about these workers as, being able to have a lesser wage, and that we really just needed to get, rid of this thing. And now everybody's on board, everybody's come full circle, and we see a world in which if anybody's fighting for minimum wage, they're fighting to eliminate this two system as well. So it's huge. But maybe even the most exciting part is what you mentioned, that maybe moving even more quickly than the legislators is some really great industry leaders who've worked with us and have decided to move in this direction. So we've had an alternative national restaurant association called RAISE, Restaurants Advancing Industry Standards and Employment. We've had that group for a good decade, and we have about 160 fabulous restaurant owners in the group, everybody ranging from Danny Meyer and Tom Colicchio all the way down to small mom-and-pop restaurants around the country. Mm-hmm. So these folks have been part of our association for many years, but over the last year in particular, we started to educate them on all of the things we learned about the sexual harassment and the impact on women and the slave history of this whole system. Right. And several started to move in this direction by learning this history. And several had already done that when we met with Danny Meyer, and he himself decided then to move in this direction. And so that was really exciting. He's obviously an icon in the industry, probably the best known fine dining restaurant owner in the country. And after he made his announcement, my op-ed came out, and then the New York Times followed that with an editorial. They editorialized in favor of fully eliminating the lower wage for tipped workers. And then this week, USA Today actually came out with an editorial supporting raising 213. So it's been an incredible week. Also yesterday, Joe's Crab Shack, first national chain to announce that they're moving to eliminate tips in one of their, they're piloting eliminating tips. Right. And I will say, I do want to take the moment to say, our campaign is not to eliminate tipping altogether at this time. It's to eliminate the lower wage for tipped workers, which primarily impacts women. It's 6 million women out there living on the lower minimum wage. Right. If there are restaurants like Danny Meyer that choose to eliminate the lower wage for tipped workers by tipping altogether, we are supportive if, like Danny, they do it in a transparent way that actually makes their workers whole. In other words, with wages gets workers to where they would have been with tips. Right. What we're afraid of is that a bunch of restaurants will jump on the wagon of no tipping without actually raising their workers' wages. And our opinion is, what we really need is livable wages, and whether that's, a full wage plus tips, or it's an employer saying, whatever you got with tips, I'm going to make sure you get in wages. What we really need is livable wages, that are at least the base wage is completely paid by the employer. Exactly. Just, our opinion is that, as long as we're talking about wages of $10 or $12 or $15 an hour, even $15 an hour is truly not a livable wage, and frankly, almost any city in the United States. And so, at this moment, tips are absolutely necessary on top of that base wage to get people to a livable wage, unless and until you're talking about employers like Danny Meyer that are actually paying a much higher wage than that, to get people closer to where they would have been with tips. Well, I hope that makes sense.
It does. And also I would put in that of that, remember the statistic I quoted you on earlier, which is that 70% of restaurant workers are women. Of the tip category, the tipped ones are women. 40% of that 70% are mothers. So it's a living wage not only for an individual we're looking for, but for, in effect, a family. And that's right. You've always been so creative about raising consciousness on this. I remember the first time that I heard you speak, and you said we're now in an age where the principled consumer who dines out wants to know, do you buy local, your vegetables? Is the fish that you serve from sustainable stocks? And if we can be concerned about those two and other items of the things that we consume, we can also be concerned about the treatment of human beings who work in that restaurant.
That's right. Yeah.
And it made
and I think it's a natural leap. Yeah.
It is. Talk a little bit about the book, because the Forked, which is a new standard for American dining.
This book came about because we've had a diner's guide. It's an app that you can download for free called the ROC National Diner's Guide that tells consumers how restaurants are faring on issues of wages and benefits and promotions. And it's been a really popular tool that we've put out.
It's an absolutely great app. I have it and I recommend it to you. Say its name again.
Yes, it's the ROC National Diner's Guide.
Right.
So Oxford University Press approached me and said, could we turn this into a book? And nobody's going to read just ratings of restaurants. So what we ended up doing is in every category of food, every chapter is a different category of dining, whether it's fine dining or, greasy spoon diners or Mexican fast food. So every chapter is a category of food, and in every chapter we profile stories of employers that have done it right versus employers that are not. The high road, what we call the high road versus the low road, and really tell the stories of how there are fabulous employers out there who've managed to get away, do away with this two-tiered system, provide benefits, provide paid sick days, provide mobility for workers. We profile some great employers from Tom Colicchio to Chipotle, which is actually a really good employer in terms of worker mobility. And then on the flip side, in each chapter, we profile companies that are really pursuing what we call the low road to profitability, from the Olive Garden to Taco Bell to McDonald's, that really need to think about dramatically changing their business model if they want to succeed in the long run.
Well, the listeners to this program are very principled, and they write Congress people, and they do all sorts of activist things. So this
That's great.
This gives them a way to know where to eat and where to avoid, or rather where to go in and make protest and then avoid.
That's right. That's right.
So,
yes.
Saru,
yes,
congratulations. Congratulations on all these developments. They've been hard fought for and hard won. May there be many, many more. I'm sure there will be. I will be
at
your book party in early next year with my bells on to celebrate you and
Rock. Thank you so much.
We have to take a short break here. I'm Robin Morgan. This is Women's Media Center Live, but I'll be back very, very soon with the Surrealism Corner, and then with my next guest, one of the real great ones, Billie Jean King. All that coming up. Stay with us.
You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan.
Welcome back. And let's pop into the Surrealism Corner. I've mentioned a number of times on this program that I'm a universal organ donor, and I believe very much in that and nothing being wasted, and I think it's a great idea. But the Chinese carried it too far, because for decades they've had a form of human exploitation in which hundreds, probably thousands of organs of executed prisoners were harvested each year, whether the prisoner donated that or not. There was no way of knowing. So they just announced recently that they would stop using prisoners' organs for transplants, and the world celebrated, those who noticed, that is. And then it turned out on closer inspection that they hadn't stopped. They have merely reclassified prisoners as citizens. And, quote, administrative trick, according to Dr. Otmar Kloiber of the World Medical Association, and the association opposes the use of any organs from prisoners in any country that has the death penalty, saying there's absolutely no way of knowing if such donations are truly voluntary. But China just relabeled them to include them in a new nationwide citizen donation system. You know, it reminds me of Orwell in 1984. Freedom is slavery, war is peace. You just rename something and you can get away with it. Socrates, I think it was, who said, "The misuse of language induces evil in the soul." And though I don't believe in evil per se, or the soul for that matter, on this one, I'm with Socrates. It's surreal. And now it's time for my next guest. This next guest, when she was only 5 years old, while washing dishes with her mother, announced, "I am going to do something great with my life." Life magazine named her one of the 100 most important Americans of the 20th century. I would add, one of the most important citizens of the world ever. The great Billie Jean King. Billie Jean, as in the great Billie Jean, the one and only Billie Jean. Welcome to the program, my dear.
Well, it's great to hear your voice, Robin. I mean, you're such, one of my sheroes. So
oh my
I have
God.
a lot of sheroes, and you're one of them. And,
wow.
This is fun for me. This is a real honor.
Well, I'm so glad we reconnected when we were both doing a TED Talk recently.
That's right. You and also
and Lily
Jane,
and Jane
Fonda and Lily were there. We're all laughing in the lobby and having a good old time.
We are
indeed. Great to reconnect.
Yeah, it was very good indeed. So, I want to start, there's so many firsts that there's no time for them all. It would take up all our time, but the only woman to win U.S. singles titles on 4 surfaces, the first woman to have a major sports venue, I'm so delighted, named in your honor, the Billie Jean King National Tennis Center here in New York, the first female athlete in any sport to receive the Presidential Medal of Freedom, more and more and more, and I would add, the first major athlete of either sex to come out as a woman-loving woman, which meant a great deal to a whole lot of women. But we have to go back to the future before we come up to the present, because there are a lot of younger folks who do not know about the great match that impacted not only in sports but outside of sports in the entire world, and certainly the women's movement, which was your playing Bobby Riggs in 1973. Was called the Battle of the Sexes, and it was also about equal pay. So tell.
It was about a lot of things, because it was really about social change.
Yep.
And I knew that going in, and I'll just tee it up quickly. But we had just started women's professional tennis in 1970, so this is 1973. And Bobby Riggs had been following me around for about 1.5 to 2 years, wanting me to play this match. Well, we'd had no infrastructure getting our women's professional tennis started. So we were working so hard just to get tournaments organized and sponsors and all these different things that go into making an event possible and successful. And so I kept saying, Bobby, I have enough problems. I'm working so hard off the court trying to make this work.
Yeah.
I don't have time to even think about this. And so what happened is he went to all the other women players. He asked Chris Everett. He asked all kinds of players. And Margaret Court, who's an Australian, said that she would play him because she got a lot of money for it, I think $35,000. So when she told me she was going to play him, I just about fainted, because I said to Margaret, this is more than a tennis match.
Right.
This is not about tennis. This is about, women's movement. It's about, of course, she didn't care about that. So being from Australia, and also she's highly religious.
Oh,
thought
dear.
we were out there. But it was a lot. She loved money, and like we all do, and she definitely took the check. And I said, well, I just want you to promise me one thing, that you will win. And she looked at me like, really? So she lost badly, horribly.
I remember.
Then I was coming back from Japan when we all heard about it, and I said to Rosie Casals and to anybody who was around the players that now I have to play him. Now I don't have a choice. This is horrible. She should have beaten him badly, but she totally choked, and we've all choked, and I totally understand, and I just felt so bad for her. But I also was upset because I understood the consequences.
It was a big step back in perception.
Title
IX had just passed a year before.
June 23rd, 1972.
And we were all just devastated that she lost because, of course, all the guys went around here saying, "You see, you see." And
and I knew they would want to weaken Title IX, so I had to play him. And I knew that it would be big. I knew it would touch not only the minds but the hearts of people and get them all wound up because. I think they started thinking about their relationships with the opposite gender, with their own gender,
Absolutely.
thinking about the world. And in 1973, women could not get a credit card on their own. They had to have it co-signed by a male.
Right.
So I knew all these things because I love history, and I think the more you know about history, the more you know about yourself, and also I appreciate the generations that came before me. I'm standing on their shoulders. So all this is on my head.
My God, the pressure.
And then
the pressure
was great.
Wow.
The pressure was unbelievable. But, I have a saying when I coach that pressure is a privilege and champions adjust. And so those two things, I didn't have those sayings in 1973, but I have since, and I think back, well, shoot, man, that match, if that epitomizes exactly those two statements.
Yep.
And so anyway, I was very anxious 2 months out because I understood the consequence. I did not want Title IX to be weakened.
Right.
I wanted women to have equal pay for equal work. At that time in 73, we were making 59 cents on the dollar, and that's white women, not women of color.
Right.
So I was like, this is horrible. We have to keep it going, move the needle forward. So by beating him in straight sets badly, everyone shifted their way of thinking. It's amazing. I still have, women still come up to me and tell me how it changed their lives, and it gave them more confidence, more self-esteem, finally had the guts maybe to ask for a raise.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, more importantly, did you get the raise? They said, actually, we all got the raise because we had enough courage to ask for it. And we did it the day after your match. We said, that's it. We're going to ask for what we want and need.
Yeah.
So that helped the women that way. Now the men come up to me, and a lot of times with tears in their eyes, and they say, I was 12 years old, I was 11, I was 17, and now I have daughters, or a daughter, and it changed my whole life, that match.
You think?
President Obama was 12 when he saw it. He told me how it affected him and how, because he has two daughters, obviously,
Sure.
and men will come up to me, and seriously, they have tears in their eyes. They're the more emotional ones when they talk to me about this. They're so touched by it, and they said, you helped change my life and how you shaped my thought process. And now that I have my daughter, I bring her up to expect just as much as I would for my son. I want my daughters and my sons to have equal opportunity, equal rights, all the same things that men get. I want my daughter to have.
Right.
So it influenced in different ways, but it did. And every day since I walk out of the apartment in New York City, where Ilana and I live, every single day somebody asks me about the King Riggs match.
I'm
now
sure.
You did today, so today's taken care of for sure. I think somebody earlier asked me, but every single Robin, I'm not kidding.
No, I'm not
one
surprised.
Day ever gone by.
I'm not
one
surprised.
Day.
It's a major moment in U.S. history, and in fact, I think in world history, and of course in sports history. But for women, it had ripple effects way beyond the world of sports. I mean, it
wasn't about sports.
That's
and
right.
I knew that.
That's
and
right.
everyone thinks of me. I do get a little upset because people label me in sports, and I don't think of myself as just sports. And sports is usually left on the outside looking into everything else.
Mm-hmm.
And it really gets me irritated because we really are a microcosm of society, just like everything is.
Of course you are.
And I don't think people connect us enough. It bothers me. We're really left out. I mean, I'm left out all the time. In the women's movement, I'm left out all the time. I'm left out all the time in all kinds of things because they keep labeling me, a lot of people, not everyone, sports, and that's not who I am. So I get a little irritated.
You're a major civil rights, political, women's rights, global leader. Hello.
This is about social, political, legal, and economic rights for both genders. It's about women being equal with men in every right and in every way.
And I would
what are we up to? 81 cents on the dollar. I mean, it's a joke.
Right.
I mean, I'm going to be 72 soon, and I'm so irritated. I cannot tell you, because when you read about history, it looks like it went really quick. Oh my God, things really changed. But when you live it the way we've all lived it,
I know.
and every generation before us, Like Katie B. Stanton and Susan B. Anthony and all these people. Can you imagine the torture they had to go through? Alice Paul, all these women for us. And, of course, Suffragette is a new movie coming out. I can't wait to see that.
Yes, it's very good.
Have you seen it?
Yes, it is good. It's very
good, right?
Yes,
well, Meryl's in it, right?
That's right.
Meryl Streep's in it. I mean, come on, I go for that.
But also, the more that people learn about what the suffrage movement was really about and what was involved, because...
Like I said earlier, the more, and this is what I have to talk when I talk to young people, the more you know about history, the more you know about yourself. Because if it doesn't relate to them, they're not interested. So I say, you know more, as soon as I go, the more you know about history, and they're kind of yawning, the more you know about yourself. And
they wake up.
Oh, now it's about me. Okay, now I'm a little bit interested. So that's the way I get their attention. But it's so true, because even as a young girl playing tennis, at 12 years old, I had an epiphany. I'd only played 1 year of tennis. I played all these other sports first. Yeah. Tennis was my last sport, and I wouldn't have played tennis if a friend hadn't asked me. She said, "Do you want to play tennis?" And I said, "What's that?"
Oh my God!
I said, "What's tennis?" And she said, "You don't know what tennis is?" I go, "No." She said, "You get to run, jump, and hit a ball." I said, "Those are my 3 favorite things. I'm there." So that's how I got into it. And then by the second time I picked up a racket, I knew I wanted to be number one. I found what I was going to do with my life. And then at 12, I had an epiphany that I was daydreaming at a tournament. Nobody was around. And I thought about my sport, that everybody wore white socks, white shoes, white clothes, played with white balls, and everybody who played was white.
Yep.
So I asked this question at 12. Where is everybody else?
What a great kid.
Where is everybody else? This is not right.
Oh.
So basically, I dedicated my life that moment, because I knew tennis could be my platform. I knew I'd have to be number one, because as a girl, people don't listen to you, so you have to be at least number one for them to listen. So I knew that. I had to be highly skilled. But I dedicated my life to equal rights and opportunities for boys and girls, men and women, the rest of my life.
Oh my God.
So I wanted to change tennis, but I also wanted to change the world,
You've changed, you've changed both. And in fact, I wouldn't put it in the past tense. You still are changing both.
I hope so.
We have to interrupt for a short break here at Women's Media Center Live. I'm Robin Morgan, and I will be back in just a minute with more Billie Jean King. So don't go away.
You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan.
Welcome back again, and let's pick right up with my conversation with the great Billie Jean King. Well, tell us about the Billie Jean King Leadership Initiative.
Well, that's come about. I was talking to Paul Carey, one of the co-founders of Teneo, and he and I have been hanging out, and after about a year and a half, he said, we got to do a leadership thing for you. This is ridiculous. I've listened to you for a year and a half now, and we got to bring it all together under one thing. We can help you. Let's do a women's leadership thing. And I go, well, I won't do that. I said, first of all, they're strategic people. They help you with strategic planning.
Uh-huh.
And I said, what have you been helping us with? You've been helping us with our business, which is called World Team Tennis. And on each team, we have the men and women on the team equally, and we have equal contribution by both genders. And so we've been doing this. We had our 40th season last summer. This is probably the most important thing for me in sports, because if a child comes to watch a World Team Tennis match, it's called Mile in World Team Tennis. We have a sponsor that if they come to watch a match, he or she or anybody can identify, hopefully, with themselves, and also see the cooperative effort, and they also see the leadership and the supportive roles that are interchangeable as you go through an evening, and how we go through real life. Sometimes we take a leadership position. Sometimes we take a supportive or follower position.
Right.
And I do it during the day. Sometimes I follow. Sometimes I step up and lead.
Exactly.
Whatever the occasion needs.
It's fluid.
Correct. And it is fluid. It's totally fluid. So that's what this teaches a child. So from a socialization point of view, I don't think there's any better example, because it's visual. You don't read about it. You actually see it in action.
And you have to see it to become it. you know.
Right, and you have to see it to be it. That's what I always tell people.
That's right.
You have to see it to be it. Like I saw Althea Gibson, who was number one in the world when I was 13. Now remember, I want to be number one in the world, right, at 11. So I finally get to see in person, which is more important than on television. In person, I see her play. I see Althea Gibson play at the Los Angeles Tennis Club because I'm from Long Beach, California, and that's where we had to go to watch tournaments or play tournaments. That was kind of the big hub of tennis in those days.
Right.
And I'll never forget watching her and realizing, oh my gosh, I've got to get at least that good or better because every generation gets better, right?
Right.
And so I'm looking at her and going, oh my God, I've got so much work to do. But I admired her. She was my shero because she was the first person of color to win a major in our sport, and she's our Jackie Robinson.
That's right.
Of tennis, okay? She never gets enough credit for this. I get so irritated, I can't tell you. And I know the reason. She's female.
Yep. It comes down to that.
It is. Okay?
Billie Jean, how do people get involved with the Billie Jean King Leadership Initiative?
Well, actually, we're more about speaking to corporations about they got to be global, and we're starting with U.S.-based global corporations.
Okay.
Our job is to change the environment and get what my two things we want to work on. Anyway, I told Paul that I wouldn't do it just for women. It's got to be both genders, both men and women, because a lot of CEOs are men.
Yes, that's
right.
And
I said, if we're really going to change, we got to go to the top. You can't, that's the way it's going to work.
Is there a website that people can find out more?
Yes, it's BJK. It's Billie Jean King. Yeah, it's BJKLI. You'll come up.
Okay.
It's very new. We partnered with Deloitte, and they've done because I don't want to do anything on what you think or feel. It's what is fact, what is data, and that's why Deloitte's been a great partner. And we have this ongoing research survey that we're doing with corporations, with employees and everything about inclusiveness. What about your leadership? And we want to go in and start changing things. But this is a good start because people actually read it and they do better in work. A lot of people, here's what happens. They feel like they're working two jobs. I'll give it a perfect example. An African-American woman goes to work. She goes an hour early. She straightens her hair. She goes to the bathroom all the time to make sure her hair is all right because she wants to fit in and keep her hair straight.
Fitting in.
Okay, so she's exhausted. She's working two jobs. She's going to the bathroom, look at her hair, and make sure she fits, and she's trying to do this whatever her job is, right?
Right.
Or here's another example. A man keeps his diploma from a very well-known university, Ivy League or Big Ten, out there. He never will talk about being poor, though. Never.
Yeah.
Then you get a gay guy who keeps talking about the NFL and the macho stuff and the machos because he needs to fit in. He hasn't come out.
Right.
So he's exhausted every day. At the end of the day, he goes home because he hasn't been himself. And this is his company supporting him to be. Are they being inclusive? Are they truly being inclusive? And these are about, this survey is about millennials, which will be 75% of the workforce in this country by 2025.
Wow.
Okay, so that's less than 10 years because this year's almost over. And so we did the millennials and the boomers.
This is going to have a huge impact, an enormous
I
impact.
hope so, but this is the beginning just to get the data.
Well, listen to me. You and your impact just keep on coming. I mean, wasn't it something like $14 or $15 a day that women tennis players earn?
Yeah, I was getting a whopping $18 a day, and
My
God.
I
got in trouble for protesting. I was always in trouble with the establishment because they said be quiet.
Listen,
I asked them, would you start a women's tour? When we started professional tennis, the men started getting rid of tournaments for us.
Right.
And if we did have a tournament, the ratio of prize money was 8-1 in favor of the men.
That ain't happening anymore. That's
it was happening, and we were getting desperate. My former husband, Larry, when we were married, he said, if tennis goes pro, the men will squeeze you out. And these are my friends that I go dancing with, go to dinner with.
Sure.
I'm going, Larry, no way. He goes, Billie, I promise you, and he was right again.
But you
And-
changed that.
Yeah, we did.
You changed that. If you look, when you look back, and look at the situation today and so forth, this is a question I've asked of a number of women, always with extremely interesting answers. If you had to say one thing that you most regret, or if you're not into regret, that makes you sad, what would that be? And also, if you had to pick one thing that you were proudest of or that gave you the greatest joy, what would that be? It's a two-parter, that question.
Well, the one thing I'm upset about is that women don't hate in the world. There's too much poverty. 70% of the poverty in the world is women.
Yep.
And that we don't get equal pay for equal work, and we
Still.
don't. We're only 20. We're just not caught up. That's what bothers me. There's not enough women in leadership positions where there's power, and that means money. Money equals power. My biggest regret is I wish I had more money. I could create more opportunities.
God, I love you.
I don't care about Lana and I are low maintenance. We don't need a lot of money for us, but I would love to help the world. I would love to get us. There's 6 million kids that go hungry every night. That's just in the United States.
I know. Listen,
the other countries. The other countries, Africa. The one great thing about tennis, it's global.
Yep.
I've had an opportunity to go to Asia. I was just in Singapore last year. Been to Africa. Ilana, my partner, is from South Africa, so I've been there since the '60s. It's amazing to see how far we have.
We have to go.
We have to go.
But you're the first
I don't want
person.
people going. I don't want people going to bed hungry. I want them to have the basics. That's why microfinancing is great.
You're the first person to say is their greatest personal regret that we haven't won yet. It's so you. What would you characterize as your greatest pride or your great joy?
Oh gosh, I never think about that. Now you got me.
Okay. With all those firsts and those honors.
I still think relationships are everything.
Oh.
There's 3 things that I always tell commencement speaks when I do my commencement speeches at universities and colleges. Is the 3 things that I found that people have inner success and outer success. And these are the things I notice. Relationships are everything. Your relationship with yourself, with your higher power, if you're into that, and also with your family, your friends, and also your spouses or partners or whatever, and your friends. That's everything.
Oh, that's so lovely.
And then keep learning, and keep learning how to learn.
Yeah.
I find those are the people who are happiest internally and externally, and be a problem solver.
Be a problem solver. Oh,
and we're all of the feminists and all the people who care, men and women, who care about the equality and the King leadership, the Billie Jean King leadership. My 2 goals: equal pay for equal work, and more women on boards. And I don't mean just white women. I mean
right.
Women of color, all kinds, people living with disabilities.
Yep.
I mean everything. And I want people to feel really good when they wake up, like they're shot out of a cannon, can't wait for the day's challenges. Let's go. It's like in sports we'd say, give me the ball.
Oh, my darling, wonderful sister. There is nobody like you. I mean, it's a thrill always to re-encounter. And the pizzazz and the energy and the vision is absolutely there. In fact, it's grown. It hasn't diminished in any way. And I'm so proud of you. We all are. And we love you madly. And I thank you so much for being with us on Women's Media Center Live. This is a real honor. And I just love you a huge heap. And I want you to just go out there and continue changing the world. That's all.
Well, Robin, I'm going to have to go to lunch with you soon, but I want to just thank you. I want to thank you for all you've done in the past, present, and I know you'll do in the future. And, as a poet, activist, writer, I mean, you've done so many wonderful things. We owe so much to you and helping us get ahead and be happier. And I just want to thank you for reaching as many countries and people that you are, and that we're all in this together.
You know how to make a girl's day.
I really appreciate you. Thank you. You're one of my sheroes.
Oh, you're one of mine too. So this is a shero mutual admiration society. I love you and thank you again.
Love you too, Robin. Thank you so much.
One more short pause here at Women's Media Center Live. I'm still Robin Morgan, and Robin Morgan will be right back with some fighting words.
You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan.
Welcome back again, just in time for some fighting words. In 2006, the National Cancer Institute took the very unusual, rare step of issuing a clinical announcement, which is a special alert that it holds in reserve for advances that are so crucial that they are expected to change medical practice. In this case, the subject was ovarian cancer. A major study had just proven that pumping chemotherapy directly into the abdomen, along with the usual intravenous method, could add 16 months or longer to women's lives. So cancer experts agreed that medical practice should change immediately. Well, flash forward to the present, nearly a decade later, doctors report that fewer than half of ovarian cancer patients at American hospitals are receiving the abdominal treatment. Experts suggest a variety of reasons that the treatment's so underused. It's harder, oh dear, to administer than intravenous therapy, and some doctors may still doubt its benefits, or others might think it's too toxic. Some, however, may see it as a drain on their income because it's time-consuming and it uses generic drugs on which oncologists make very little money. This year, 21,290 new cases of ovarian cancer are expected in the United States and 14,180 deaths. So, for now, a patient's best option is to ask whether her doctor offers the treatment, and if the answer is no, find a doctor who does. It's called the abdominal treatment, or it's also known as intraperitoneal or IP treatment, and it's offered at cancer specialist hospitals. Ovarian cancer usually isn't found till it's reached stage 3, when it has already begun to spread inside the abdomen. And studies find that the two factors that have the greatest impact on survival are removing every visible trace of the tumor with meticulous debulking surgery and finishing the recommended amount of chemotherapy. But many women don't have adequate surgery because they're not operated on by doctors who have specialties in gynecologic cancer. Anyway, Dr. Deborah Armstrong, who's a professor at Johns Hopkins Kimmel's Cancer Center, has said that the cumulative data are so strong that oncologists have absolutely no more excuses for disregarding this abdominal procedure. But to bring about change, patients will have to speak up, she says, adding, I think it's going to have to be the advocate community, since they're the ones who have the most skin in the game. If you know someone with ovarian cancer, pass on the information, because she may not be getting the cure and the care that she deserves. And that makes me, fighting words, angry. And that's it for today. This program is syndicated, but if you can't find the broadcast on a radio station in your area, you can always visit us at WMClive.com. There you can find the show, plus the archive of all our previous episodes. And we're at iTunes worldwide. There you can stream, download, and subscribe to the show's podcast. Also, be sure to find WMC Live on Facebook and Twitter. Portions of this program were taped earlier. Opinions expressed here do not necessarily represent the WMC. Here's the family for Women's Media Center Live: Regina K. Scully is our founding sponsor. Julie Burton, Women's Media Center President, is executive producer. And I'm Robin Morgan, your producer and host. Thank you for being with us. Don't forget to join us next week right here on Women's Media Center Live.
For the smartest talk about news, politics, sex, books, religion, race, and more, tune your radio to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan. Audacious, witty, provocative, informative, and fun. It's Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan on WMCLive.com. Talk radio with a brain.